Hi, good afternoon. Welcome to the Jon Gaunt podcast. Talking today about Starmer. I'm saying that under his reign, under his rule, we may as well rejoin the EU. What was the point of leaving? He's trying to get us in the back door, which is why, if you're watching on telly, you'll see I've got him dressed in his EU suit. I bet he's got EU pajamas. Don't forget, this man, this traitor, was an ardent Remainer. He never wanted us to leave. He's a federalist. He absolutely loves the EU. And everything he's done since he got back into power seems to point to that. However, of course, you might say, hold on, Gaunty, he constantly says we're not going back in. He constantly says that's in the past. Yes, he does. But he constantly said he wasn't going to attack the old age pensioners' winter fuel allowance. He was going to get rid of student loans. He was going to bring back some kind of grant system. He said lots of things that now have the smell of BS about them. Yesterday, that whole speech by the Chancellor, by the way, I've not forgotten that. I want to do another broadcast later today about the disgusting behaviour, the lies, the complete stench of BS coming from Rachel Reeves yesterday, where basically her speech said, like a little kid, it's everyone else's fault, Mum. It's not me. I was just playing. Then the big boys came. Absolute nonsense. She blamed Trump. She blamed the Tories. She blamed everybody, apart from blaming herself, which is just typical of Starmer and his lousy Labour lying government. But that's for later. Let's focus on the EU. Where is he today? I'll tell you where he is today. He's nipped off to have a meeting with Macron and the rest of those cronies, the EU mafia, including the boss of the EU, including somebody from NATO. And what are they discussing? It's the coalition of the willing, which I've described as the coalition of the useless. Why are they bothering to meet? They can't influence the peace process. That's going to be sorted out between Donald Trump and Putin with a little dash of Zelensky in the middle. It's got naff all to do with the EU. They've got no influence over it. What we should be doing is aligning ourselves with the United States of America and Donald Trump's administration in more detail. That's what we should be doing. Look what's happened today. Rachel Reeves made that ridiculous lying speech yesterday. Overnight, Donald Trump has pulled the rug from underneath her by saying he's going to impose tariffs on motor cars that aren't made in the United States, 25%, which means there'll be no Jags, no Land Rovers, no Discoveries, no cars getting sold in the United States of America from now on, because he's already said he hates the EU. He believes, rightly or wrongly, I think to a certain extent he's right, that the EU was primarily set up to stitch up the states. He's angry because he says the EU doesn't pay enough towards NATO. I'll tell you now, and put this in your diaries, Gaunty says it first, he'll pull out of NATO if this nonsense continues. If this nonsense where Starmer can stride across the globe and basically make out he's the big peacemaker when he isn't. It's your man, Donald Trump. We should be aligning with Donald Trump because these trade tariffs yesterday, overnight, Trump has wrecked, even if there was a semblance. Excuse me, I've got hay fever today. Even if there was a little bit of truth in what she said, which there wasn't, without the trade, we've absolutely knackered. There will be no growth. There's not going to be growth anyway. It's a ridiculous statement she made yesterday, but he's wheedled off to meet Mr. Macron. Well, we should know about Europe. They never know. No, they're never there when you need them. When push comes to shove, do you believe that France, Germany, Italy will stand with us? I mean, Italy have already said no. Poland have said no. They're not going to put troops on the ground. But this idiot behind me, he's determined to send your children to die in Ukraine because we're going to be the peacemaking group. Well, Putin, who is at the negotiating table, or his people are, he says, I don't want NATO troops. Any NATO troops, by that he means European troops, in Ukraine, the deal's off. And he's gone further. One of his spokeswoman overnight basically said, if you do that, it will be seen as an act of war. So suddenly we're going to be in a war with Russia, which I don't want to be nasty, but I reckon that's what Zelensky's wanted all along. He's wanted to get into NATO so that the rest of us stand up for him. Well, I'm sorry, no. We've helped Ukraine. We've had the people over here. We've sent them logistical stuff. We've sent them weapons. We've sent them money. But we can't keep on sending them money, and we certainly can't send our boys to die. How much more money does this idiot, this federalist, this European Starmer want to send abroad whilst we've got people screaming and shouting in the streets with post-traumatic stress disorder? Why aren't we looking after our own troops? Why aren't we looking after our own people? Yesterday, I did my podcast all about why on earth are we giving, what was it, £5.5 million a day to hotel groups to look after economic migrants, refugees, whatever you want to call them. I'll tell you what they are. They're illegal immigrants. They've broken into our country. It's like a burglar. Burglar gets into your house, you hear a noise, you go downstairs, rather than smack him over the head with a golf club or a truncheon that or baseball bat that you just conveniently have by the side of your bed. And of course, you only use reasonable force. But rather than doing that, you say, oh, hello, mate. Hello, Burglar Bill. What would you like? Like a drink? Mate, can I make you something to eat? I'll just get the wife up. She'll make you some cheese on toast while you screw our house, while you take away our possessions that we've worked for. It's the same thing. I'm not saying all these refugees coming in are criminals. What I am saying is, no, let's sort out our own backyard, our own security. And I don't want to be part of some European super army. Don't forget, that's what people like Starmer want. They want us to be part of the EU superstate. He's just like Blair. He wants to be the president. I see my old friend, the president of Finland, Mr. Stubbs, who offered me out in the European Parliament. If you've not listened to that podcast, make sure you do. He's over at this meeting. What on earth can the Finnish do? It's just nonsense. We should ally now firmly with the United States of America. If you agree, let me know. Let's have a look at some of the things you're saying so far. I don't expect these lunchtime ones to be massive on comments, but if you want to comment, feel free. Is Starmer going to sign us to this EU Defence Pact? Yes, probably. Surely that's abrogation of sovereignty. Of course it is, but that's what he wants. He wants us back in the EU, either by the back door, which I understand he's quite fond of, or by the front door. The man is a liar, a complete liar. Did you see him yesterday in Parliament sitting next to Rachel Thieves, smug as hell, whilst they took away benefits from people with disabilities? It's a cliche, but they've stolen money now, not just from pensioners, 10 million of them. They're now stealing it from the people who can least afford to give. And then they got these cliches, those with the broadest shoulders. What? Somebody in a wheelchair? Somebody suffering with manic depression? No, Starmer. You're a hypocrite. You're a crook. You're foul. You don't deserve to be Prime Minister. And the sooner we get rid of you, the better. Unfortunately, we've got Kemi Bannock, whoever her name is, on the other bench, and she's useless too. Absolutely useless. And meanwhile, the infants of reform are still arguing. The problem is Trump had utter contempt for Starmer and most of the European leaders. They are the antithesis of everything that Trump stands for. You're right. Pip Tomlinson there on YouTube. You're absolutely right. And there's been this big fuss about, oh, look what they said in that WhatsApp group. What did they say? They basically said, I don't really want to help out Europe because they're useless. And what bit of that was inaccurate? What bit of that was libelous or slanderous? It was true. Why should people, I've said this to you so many times, think of Roseanne Barr and her family out in the Midwest of America. Why should they fund the defense of Europe? They shouldn't. NATO is going to break up. We've got to get on the right side of history as soon as possible. And the right side is to be with Trump. Do you agree with me? Please let me know now. Bring your comments in. Pip Tomlinson again. The problem is Trump had... just read that one, sorry. That's the same one. Oh, yeah. Trump has total contempt for Starmer and European leaders. They are the antithesis of everything he stands for. This wet wipe, put another line in, this one is. I like this. This wet wipe of a government won't change his opinion. I'm not asking it to change his opinion on Europe. I'm just saying, hey, Donald, we're with you. We're the UK. We're independent. Now, the only way we can be truly independent and the only way we get the Brexit that, don't forget, most of us voted for, the majority voted for, because at the moment we've only got Brexit in name only. It's been a con trick. Because of the European Court of Human Rights, we have not got control of our borders. This is why we're spending £5.5 million at the moment per day looking after people who have broken into our house, our country. The only way to square that off is to leave. Oh, no, but we can't just leave. It's international. Can't we? What's Donald Trump done? Let's have a look at the Mexican border. He's basically swamped it with troops. Problem solved. Oh, no, long term, it's got to be a lot more than that, but that's what he's done. We should just leave and say to them, up yours. Send the bill if you want. But we ain't doing this anymore. Someone's just put up here, Schengen. So we were never part of the Schengen agreement. We were never part of that. The bottom line is we're an island. We're also the island that saved Europe's arse twice. 2 World Wars and 1 World Cup. We might not be very good at football, but we saved them. God, terrible hay fever. Anyway, I want your views on that. I'm saying leave the European Court of Human Rights. We've just got to do it. I used to be against this. I used to say, no, that's all too dramatic. It's impossible. It's not. That's the language of defeatism. The truth is, we can either now stay with Europe or go with the States. Who would you rather be aligned to? War with Russia would be madness. What's going to happen, Simon? Starmer is committed to war, by the look of it. We only have approximately 200 Challenger to main battle tanks, 70 of which are not operational, as they've been cannibalized for spares, as the production lines have been shut down. Correct. Only 148 of those to Challenger 3 standards. That's barely enough to equip the last 3 remaining armoured regiments with 0 reserves. You sound like you know what you're talking about. Thank you for your comments, Simon. The bottom line is we haven't really got an armed forces anymore. We've cut it to the bone. Successive governments, not just Starmer. And by the way, it's not just Starmer who's a federalist. The Tories were just as bad. Europe should have been solved years ago. Years and years ago. I don't understand why we're still under the yoke of the EU. And why are we over there today? Why has he gone to see his little pals in the EU? Let's stand up to the bully. And meanwhile, every time they slag off Trump, it sounds like we're part of that. They do want a tier, I think. Is that, I don't know how to pronounce your name. It's on YouTube, says EU Army, lol. Well, there's going to be one, pal. They've been after it. I've been in talk radio for the best part of 25 years. They've been after a EU army ever since I've been doing talk radio. I'm talking about the genre. Yeah. Labour could be facing a post-coalition Lib Dem wipeout in 2029. What? Every decision they make is the wrong one. Cutting benefits for the sick and disabled whilst tossing money at that wee beggar in Kiev. That's a bit nasty, but I understand where you're coming from. We've given Zelensky enough. We've given enough money, enough arms, enough logistical support. It's over, mate. Now get the peace sorted out with Donald Trump. But see, Zelensky's another one. Rather than making up to Putin and being sensible, what did he say overnight? He said, Putin will be dead before me. He looks terrible. It's just not the way to talk to powerful leaders. And we just haven't got a regained sovereignty. This is not an independent country. This is not the United Kingdom. In fact, in many ways, it's more disunited than ever because the Remainers, Lib Dems in particular, they think we're going to get back in the EU. Well, you wouldn't necessarily bet against it, would you? And that's what I'm saying. We may as well rejoin it rather than this halfway house where we have to do everything they say and we're going to have trade tariffs put on us, even though we're in surplus with the United States of America, because we're basically in their gang. And whether you like it or not, it comes down to simplistic terms like that. Trump wants us to be in his gang. We're saying, up yours, we're going to be with Europe, with Macron, redundant, with Trudeau. Well, he's gone, hasn't he? Canada. I want to be with the United States. What about you? Well, we know. The ongoing migrant crisis and our government's, all governments that we've had, inability to tackle the small boats invasion, just illustrate what I'm saying. We can't deal with it because we're still in the EU. It's like the hokey cokey. You put your left foot in, your left foot out, in, out, shake it all about. They'll screw you to the floor and we have to abide by their rules. It's just ludicrous. And make no bones about it. I mean, I know the tariffs are extreme and I'm not necessarily 100% in agreement with them, but Donald Trump's going to do it. And if you want to trade with America, you're going to have to comply. And the fact that Americans now will have to pay 25% more for a Jag or a Discovery or Land Rover, they're just not going to buy British cars or European cars. It's going to completely knacker us. It's a joke. We must now prove our independence from the EU to the world, including the United States. And we should start today. We should, first of all, Starmer should tell the truth about two things. Number one, the coalition of the useless. Who's in it? Who's in it? Why is he so reluctant to say? Who's committed to putting boots on the ground? I'll tell you who's committed at the moment. The French, Macron and Starmer. He says the British public are with him. No, we're not. If we were with him, where's all the polls? I don't mean the polls, P-O-L-E-S. I mean P-O-L-L-S. Supporting that. Where's the overwhelming majority of people in this country saying, yeah, we'll die for Ukraine. We're with Ukraine. We're not. Just like in America, the United States of America are no longer, the people I'm talking about, not the politicians. The politicians will always be with it because they're getting backhanders from all of the war industry, aren't they? The arms industry. The bottom line is, oh, that's another thing, breaking news at the moment about China and about the steel. Have you seen that today? Jobs going left, right and centre, and the liar is just carrying on lying in government, in the Commons yesterday. The other thing that Starmer needs to come clean on, and he needs to come clean on it now, when he says there was a £24 billion black hole, was there? Give us just rough figures. Drawn in Crayola if you want. Get Diane Abbott to do it on her abacus. We know how good she is at maths. And just tell us where the hole was. Because you know what? I reckon at least 12 billion of that is the money you gave to the doctors and the teachers and public sector workers. I'm not even necessarily against it. But Starmer, you're lying. You're making out you inherited this massive deficit. You didn't, in my opinion. You didn't. It's a lie. Then today, and we'll talk more about this on the show this evening. I think I'm going to do a show about 7:00. Rachel Reeves standing in front of houses being built. In fact, the house she was standing in front of was like the one I had in near Milton Keynes before we got the mansion, before I lost everything. But anyway, that's a different issue. It's David Wilson House, isn't it? But who does she think she is? People have seen through you, Rachel. You're finished. You're a failed politician. This politician is deceased. This politician is no more. It's Monty Python. Although they wouldn't even think of writing something as surreal as you and Sir Keir have invented. You are a disgrace. It's quite clear that Starmer, although he says to us, no, I don't want us to get back in, that's never going to happen, he is doing that. The coalition of the willing is only the beginning. Now, the fact is going to be a miserable failure. And then that's the thing. Why is he there today? Why is he meeting the coalition of the useless when there's things to be done in this country? What is it about him and international travel? Has he got an Air Miles season ticket? What's he up to? Have jet, will travel. No. Deal with the problems that are plaguing this country, i.e., particularly the amount of people who are getting in illegally and the amount of money you're spending on them. Spend it on your own people. There shouldn't be one single hero, ex-army personnel or RAF or services personnel who is homeless or sleeping on the street. It's an indictment, not just of you, Sir Keir, but also all the governments before you. You're all, including Blair, you love sending men and women to war, but you don't pick up the pieces, literally and metaphorically. That's what the coalition about the willing is. Okay, so you come to an agreement today. Trump gets a deal with Putin, and then what are you going to do? Because you're not going to go in as NATO into Ukraine. Putin's not going to allow it. Trump is only going to help you. You can't do it on your own. You haven't got enough money, as that previous person said. Simon Hatt said, we haven't got any money. So you want America to pay? I don't think America will. And I think you're poking two bears at once. You're poking the Russian bear, but now you want to poke the American bear. Trump's likely to say, up yours. I'm just going to be a real isolationist, like you accused me of being in my first stint in the White House, and I'm only going to think about America. Well, that's going to do us a load of good. Our culture, our history, our pop music, everything you think about, our literature, has much more links with the United States of America than it does with Europe. I mean, you could argue we've got close links culturally with France, even Germany, but not the other countries. It's just nonsense. It's just nonsense. We're American. Everything people, how the way people talk, what we eat, where we go, what we do. No, let's ally with Donald Trump. That's where the common ground is. And then let's make sure everybody knows that's the situation. We're standing with Trump. Let's get your views on that. Going to have to stop soon, so get a move on. Hi, John. Keep up the good work and exposing the tyrant that is Starmer, says Thorne Moore on Facebook. Thank you for joining me. Derek Penman says he's a delusional egomaniac. I hope you're talking about Starmer and not me. Oh, shut up. This RT guy. Right, listen, mate. If you don't like what I do, don't join in, right? Because you're just an absolute arse. I'm not interested. He's written here, they're going to fire the disabled out of artillery guns if this show continues. What are you on about? What are you on? There's another one where it doesn't make any sense what he's written. I take it as a compliment that there are people like you who bother tuning in to me to get your daily wind up. But it's kind of also annoying. And so in the end, I just block you. So off you trot. Go on, off you go. I'm sure Talk Radio could do with another listener. Anyway, you do whatever you want to do. I'm doing what I do. By the way, thank you for pressing the like button. Don't forget, even if you're listening to a podcast or you're watching this on replay later, please press the like and the share button. You must do that to help spread the word. Likewise, if you're on YouTube, press the subscribe. It doesn't cost anything just to subscribe to my channel. Now over 3,000 subscribers. We started with a handful. Thank you so much. All of this helps the algorithm find me and put me out there to other people. But I'm saying, and let's just make it clear before I go, we need to be part of the United States of America. I want to be in a coalition of the able, not a coalition of the unable. Sadly, unable, right? Because that's what Europe is. And with the tariffs now, the world has changed. I mean, that was the thing she kept saying yesterday. Again, we'll talk about this more later tonight, maybe 7 o'clock-ish. She kept saying the world has changed. What she meant was Trump's here. Well, the world has changed, but not for the bad thing. It's changed for the good. Like I say, it's about time, America said, we ain't bailing out Europe all the time. I don't take that as a great insult. I take that almost as a compliment that we've got a leader of the free world who's not going to be messed about. He's not perfect. Of course he's not. But wouldn't you rather be with him than Macron or my good friend, the president of Finland, who offered me out? What would you rather do? We should rejoin the EU, but the problem is they don't want us anymore, says Peter Adams on YouTube. No, we shouldn't. No, we shouldn't. We don't need to be in the EU. Everything that Farage said would come true now with Trump. We will get a deal with Trump, but we have to be separate to the EU. We would not be getting 25% trade tariffs. See, Starmer came back. See, this is the thing with Starmer and Lammy and people like that. They all, and Khan in London, they all upset Trump. And they've had a little bit of a few days off, few weeks off, and now they're doing it again. And then the BBC, Pravda, of the government, they're saying things like, they spit out the word Trump. The other night, when that WhatsApp group thing was exposed, which of course is embarrassing and stupid, but there were no state secrets on it. However, it was wrong. I accept that. But the BBC led on that. They led on it. They didn't lead on the fact that 30,000 illegal criminals have got into Britain since Labour were in power. They didn't lead on the fact that it had been exposed £5.5 million a day is being paid to put these people up, these crooks, these criminals, up in hotels. They didn't lead on any of that. They led on this WhatsApp conversation. That's the BBC that you're paying for. And the way, especially that Sarah, whatever her name is, who's the US correspondent for the BBC. Her dad was a top politician. Her dad was John Smith. Sarah Smith, her. The way she talks about Trump is despicable. Absolutely wrong. The whole slant is that he's a madman or a fascist. Just not right. And it's certainly not right. I don't mean that she should be blowing smoke up his backside. Of course not. He should be critical. But this is ridiculous. I mean, Simon's just got it right. He said Trump is the most pro-British president, bar none. And by virtue of his Scottish mum, he's half British. Yeah, well, if that's what he thinks, let's keep encouraging that. He also employs thousands of people, doesn't he, in the hospitality trade, not just in the States, but in this country. We could learn a lot from him, a hell of a lot. I mean, that was I'm going to talk about hospitality tonight as well. That's just an absolute disgrace. Next week, just as we go into April, the NI things are going to come in. It's going to cripple thousands of pubs and hotels, the length and breadth of this country. They are wrecking your country in front of your eyes. And then somebody said to me about, Rachel Reeves this morning and said, I won't take any more free tickets. It's more trouble than it's worth. Pardon? And somebody yesterday said to me, what's wrong with her wanting to do something nice for her kids? Because the ticket was for her kid, the 600 quid to see that woman carpenter, right? Hold on. She didn't get them just because she's a mum or a good mum. She got them because she was the Chancellor of the Exchequer. She has no right to take freebies like that, just like Starmer had no right, the stinking, filthy hypocrite, and he had to give his tickets back, the money back for his Taylor Swift. And also, what is wrong with these people? Even Rachel Reeves kind of almost said what I'd said yesterday. She said, really, a 46-year-old woman doesn't necessarily want to be seeing Sabrina Carpenter, i.e., I took my daughter or my son. No, it's like him. How old's he, Starmer? He's too old to be watching Taylor Swift. Get a flipping life and get out of ours, Starmer. Go and put your EU jammers on. Maybe they've been made for you. Made to measure. Oh, suits you, sir. By Lord Ali. Did Lord Ali pay for your new suit? Look at that. There. There's his new suit with the European stars on it. It's just a joke, guys. They are taking the proverbial. Greg Galvin, Facebook. We need a dog joke so badly. When Labour got in, it was always going to be their MO to give money to the CS and unions. Who's the C? Can we stop using acronyms? It's pathetic. Don't do it, Greg. I'm not having a go at you, Greg. Say what you actually mean, right? Who's the CS? Anyway, and unions. Anyone who voted them is a full-blown idiot. Well, are they? Haven't they just been conned? I mean, when you looked at what he was offering, I didn't vote for them. When you look at what civil servants, he means, but CS, I've never heard them called the CS. Anyway, Greg, we're not going to fall out over that. Thank you for telling me what you meant. When you look at what Starmer offered in his manifesto, which of course was a pack of lies, absolute bullshit, the whole lot of it. But when you compared it to what Rishi was offering, which was more the same, nice corruption, we'll just carry on feathering our nests, giving our wives loads of money, having non-dom wives, giving their PPI, COVID money to whoever we fancy. Well, no one was going to vote for them. That's how he got in. But he lied. There's loads of lies in there. And now he's attacking, and we'll talk about it later. He's now attacking the very people who can't afford it, the disabled. And the idea, and I've been on the dole just recently. I know what it feels like to be on the dole at this age. I'm 64, for God's sake. I feel like I've been abandoned. I've been on the scrap heap. And when you go to sign on and talk to your CS, your civil service person, thank you, Greg, who tells you, their job coach. They're called a job coach. They're not a coach. Because they haven't got a clue either. They don't know. They just want to get you off the books. The woman nearly danced a jig when I said, well, I'm doing my podcast again now, and I've got just enough to get off the dole. But just enough. No real encouragement. And it's only because you lot have donated the odd fiver here, there, and everywhere that I've managed it. I mean, obviously now I'm getting adverts and things are beginning to happen. But when you're 64, when I'm 64, God, the help isn't there. So to attack people who are disabled or have got a problem or got a mental health problem, I just think it's the lowest of the low. Yes, we need to tighten up on it. Yes, there's people swinging the lead, but there's also people fiddling their tax. What about Amazon? What about Google? What about these big multinationals who don't pay their tax here? What about them? How about having a pop at them rather than some spotty, acne, puss-faced teenager who's just got himself a job behind the bar washing glasses? And making it impossible for people to employ him because you can now get somebody older because it's the same money. The living wage. She was bragging about that. Oh, yeah, we've increased the living wage. No, you effing haven't. Employers are increasing it. You've made them pay more. And then, oh, yeah, but we took a penny off a pint. Oh, my God, these people drive me mad. Ever got the feeling you've been cheated? I don't think people are being conned, John. They just didn't do their homework. I'm not sure that's true, Greg. I'm not sure that's true. He lied. He blatantly lied. Council tax won't go up. That's the thing now. She'll be back. Mark my words. Come September time, when they come back from their 6-week holiday or whatever it is, she'll be back and she'll be putting up taxes. She has to. The country is knackered, which is why I'm saying team up now with Trump. Why do we not have a right of redress when they have demonstrably lied to obtain power? That's a good question, Simon, and I don't have the answer. We have a ridiculous system in this country where they can lie and cheat and not tell the whole truth, get elected, and then do whatever they want to do. How many times have I told you? Everybody who gets into Parliament, more or less, becomes a self-serving pig and gets their snout in the trough straight away. They disgust me. But Starmer is conning us. We need him removed, but we need an opposition, which is why reform, having this toddler tantrum or row, is so ridiculous. But do not allow them. Just keep saying it. Get on social media saying you're lying, you're not telling the truth. And if you agree with me, I don't want to be in the EU by the back door. I don't want this hokey-cokey scenario we've got at the moment, because we've got none of the upside. It's all downside. I jokingly said a few weeks ago we should become the 51st state of the United States. And in a sense, that's really what I'm calling for. We should now ally with the states. We vote them in and they betray the voters. Oh, here's another one. Nicholas Stravel. Brexit has failed. No, you're right. Brexit has failed. But we haven't had Brexit. We haven't had Brexit because the establishment wouldn't allow that. We voted. We gave them a bloody nose. They've wiped their nose like I'm having to do today with a snot of hay fever. And they've just carried on regardless. So we haven't had Brexit. Then this person says, Brexit will destroy the UK economy. I don't think they need any fucking help for that, do they, love? We're already destroying it. Labour are destroying it. Labour have tried to promote growth by borrowing money and attacking the poor. Labour. I thought I might be here, 9 months ago. I thought I might be here slagging off Labour because they're spending too much money on welfare. But no, quite the opposite. They don't want to spend money on the welfare of our veterans or our old age pensioners or our students or give them help to get back into work. No, they want to spend it on people who are crooks, who have broken into the country. And when I say crooks, I only mean because they've entered illegally. Yes? Make sure you're following what I'm saying. I'm not anti-immigration. I'm pro-immigration. Well-controlled, managed immigration. I'm going to finish now. Greg says, I run a business and the NI increase makes me not want to give pay rises to staff. I understand that, Greg. My mate runs a very successful hotel. He's got a similar problem. Chopper Mark 5 says, being part of the US sounds great. Giant burgers, cheap fuel, right of free speech, right to bear arms. Bring it on. Well, that's true, isn't it? At least they've got free speech enshrined in their constitution. US-UK trade deal will destroy UK farmers with junk food. No, it won't. That's all nonsense, all that nonsense about, I don't like some of the intensive United States of America farming techniques, but I don't think that'll happen. I don't think that'll happen over here. In fact, quite the opposite now. You obviously haven't been keeping up. I think it's his name, Nicholas Stravel. Nicholas, you need to keep up with things. Have you heard of a man called Kennedy? Not Jack Kennedy or Bobby Kennedy, but Kennedy, who's now in the White House, who's in charge of health for the United States. He's a low-carb man. He's against ultra-processed foods. He wants to scrap the corn lobby that has destroyed the American figure and the American economy. That's what he wants to do. He wants to make the health better. So he's not going to be doing the scare stories that the BBC have been spreading for however many years. And also, have you ever eaten American meat? Some of it is fantastic. Nobody seems to realise this is what's paying for lockdown looks like. It's not just lockdown. That's another part of her bullshit. Of course, COVID costs money, and of course, lockdown, and we perhaps locked down too long. I can take all that on board, but don't blame it on lockdown. Blame it on the fact as soon as they got into power, the sixth formers, they gave away, I think it's the best part of £13 billion to doctors and nurses and social workers and civil servants, rather than getting in and making sure. They just came in and spent that money, and then they say there's a £24 billion black hole. I'm not against doctors being paid properly. It was ludicrous the way the argument between the doctors and the government went on for so long. It should have been sorted. But please don't give me this. This is all about lockdown. It's like the latest thing with that adolescence program, which I haven't watched yet. I'm going to watch this weekend. When people say, oh, that's all because of lockdown and kids are this and kids are that. Can we stop using lockdown? It was a few weeks when you couldn't go out. Huh? Did we have that excuse in the Second World War when my mum and my dad were put into an air raid shelter? My dad was living in Hull as a child and was sent to Stamford in Lincolnshire without his mum and dad, along with thousands and thousands of other kids for 2 or 3 years to be safe. Did we have a post-traumatic COVID blitz background? People in Coventry who got blitzed and hundreds of people died in one night. Did that psychologically damage the whole city? It's all modern day bull, right? people trying to use excuses. And also what's despicable about that, whichever side of the COVID argument you're on, people use it to push their argument for wearing masks or not wearing masks or having the vaccination or not having it. Move on. Move on. And see where the enemy is now. And the enemy now, I'm just suggesting, is perhaps right behind us. It's behind you. No, it's not. Anyway, see you later on tonight, maybe. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you have, share it. Tell lots of people about it. I'm working my butt off here. And if you'd like to help me, please definitely subscribe to my YouTube channel, Jon Gaunt TV. But if you can afford a $5 and buy me a coffee, why don't you do that as well? See you later. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. I'm going to be back tonight. Oh, hang on. Chris Ashmore, an old mate of mine, says, I thought you were moving to a regular 6 o'clock slot. Can't keep track of you. There is no enemy. There is an enemy. Chris, tonight, 7 o'clock, join me and we'll talk about it then. Thank you very much indeed. Chopper says, thanks, Gaunty. If you got kids, give them a kiss, give them a hug. Hey, hey, hey. Don't forget to tell them you love them. I'll see you later on. All the best. Thanks.